This podcast is going to cover so many subjects: health and fitness, mental health, mindset, being a mum, business. Everything will be covered on this podcast. So join me bi-weekly for an amazing journey through life. Hi everyone, and welcome to A Full Cup of Tea with me, Terry Ann, and I've got a very special guest on today called Victoria Gill. Hi Victoria.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to have you on. Obviously, I've known you for years through social media, and you're so inspiring. Like, you inspire me with every post that you put on, and I think, you know, so many women are inspired by you. So this is why we're like, I need to get Victoria on my podcast. She was just so good for helping so many people.
Thank you so much. And I think with me and you, like, when we do have a conversation, we naturally just have a really good conversation anyway, don't we?
Yeah,
like,
it just flows.
Last time when we saw each other, we'd been talking for like 20 minutes, and I think I said to you, we should have been recording this.
Yeah, defo should have been a podcast.
Because I think it's just who we are. It's just, I think you take for granted what you're doing in the day-to-day because it's your day-to-day, and it's not until you have somebody else that's like, oh my God, you're doing really cool stuff, that you actually have the opportunity to sit down and talk about stuff.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
thank you so much for having me on.
Honestly, I'm so pleased to have you on. Appreciate you coming on and taking some time.
Thank you.
I don't know if you want to sort of introduce yourself to obviously the audience and let them know like the things that you do on social media and in your day-to-day life.
In my realm. Where to begin? It's so hard, isn't it, when someone's kind of like, right, who are you? What do you do? And it's like, how far back do I go? Because I feel like my whole life's been different chapters of a story. So my background is I used to be a dancer. I started dancing when I was really young. And then I went to university, did a psychology degree, did a master's in international business and retail. And then, so studied really hard, really academic, came out of uni and decided I wanted to be a personal trainer, which my mum and dad were thrilled about
I can imagine.
after spending
all that
30 grand on education. So then I got into personal training, and I ended up competing. So I was a bikini athlete, and then I transformed into a wellness athlete. I used to compete for the UK. I was national champion in bikini, in wellness, competed in different competitions all around the world. Was in different magazines.
Still look incredible, by the way.
Thank you. No, I'm about half. I think I'm about half the size of what I used to be, but that's another
a different stage of your life.
Yeah, completely different transition. And then in that time, I had a really bad binge eating disorder because obviously my food was so restrictive. Completely destroyed my relationship with my body image, with my food, like all that sort of thing. My health was in absolute pieces. Obviously, I've got endometriosis. I've had a billion different forms of abnormal cells. I've had a condition called vulvodynia. Like, I've had so many female health issues. It's been crazy.
And would you put would you put that down to, do you think, the dieting aspects and that part of your life? Or
so endometriosis I've had since I was about 12 years old. So that is obviously something genetic,
right?
Something completely different. I think it's been a combination, sort of the issues I've had since, combination of being on a contraceptive for a really long time, really harsh dieting, putting my body through that much stress, and then it's had to recover, and it's like rehabbing, hormonal rehab really. So kind of went through all of that, and then this was 2019, I thought I need a pattern disrupt. I was absolutely miserable, had depression, my health was just horrendous, I had really bad insomnia, hormones completely messed up, my mental health was horrendous, my body image was horrendous, and I thought, I need a pattern disrupt here. Something needs to drastically change. You know, like when you're almost like a pinnacle point in life, and you're like, I'm either going down this road or I need to do something massively drastic.
That was like me a year ago.
To transform me into this, and this is where I want to be. And I just decided I wanted to be a yoga teacher. So 3 days later, I flew to an island off the coast of Croatia. Spontaneous.
Yeah.
And then did that for about 6 weeks, lived on an island, had no technology, no phone, no laptop. Didn't even have any mirrors, wasn't allowed to look in a mirror for a good 6 weeks, no contact to anything external. There was no people around, like lived on an ashram, and it completely changed my life, changed my life. Yeah. So came home, set up a yoga studio, did a couple of other things, lived in Sri Lanka, which was really random. And then, of course, we went into lockdown. So throughout lockdown, I had a coaching business, and it was kind of like a step back. So I went back into coaching that was around fitness, weight loss, all that side of stuff. But obviously, because it was lockdown, when you were self-employed, it was like, what do I do?
Yeah.
And then I did that for about 2 years, and I could just see, it was almost like going back to a previous version of myself. And I was like, I'm just not here anymore. This is just not what I value.
Yeah, not fulfilling.
Not fulfilling. It's very surface level. There's no depth to it. I'm not really helping women with the things that I think are the most important around female health, hormones, connecting to your divine feminine. Like, the fitness industry is very masculine.
Yeah, it is.
So then stopped that, and then obviously set my business up that I have now, which is Rebirth. In that time, I've done a TEDx talk as well, which was all about the divine feminine and how we need to value the feminine to basically heal the world. Perfect for International Women's Day.
Definitely.
So now my business is Rebirth, which is a beautiful business, and it's all about helping women with fertility, pelvic pathology, hormonal health, anything that's gynae related, vagina related, divine feminine related, sexuality related, and doing it using holistic methods. So yoga, meditation, Ayurvedic medicine, mindset. And it's just like I've pulled all these parts of my past and created my business that I have now, and I'm obsessed with it. I'm absolutely
and
obsessed
I think when you do that, you can sort of help people on a totally different level.
Completely
because
different
anybody
level.
can go to sort of uni, college and learn all this, but to actually live it,
absolutely.
I think is live it, learn it, learn from it, and then learn others and share it.
Share it,
completely.
And I think all the experiences that I've had, even just from professional level, but also my personal experiences of all the different health issues that I've had, like I've had a couple of miscarriages as well, and going through that, I have the empathy to work with somebody that is dealing with that, and I understand the emotions behind it. Same with, I have so many women that come to me and ask me questions about sex, or ask me questions about like really vulnerable things, and it's because they've got nowhere else to go.
It's like a safe place, and they feel
I'm the safe space, and like for advice and what would you recommend, or I have it nearly every single day, or I have people asking me questions that they've maybe gone to their GP and they're just no further in, because women's health is so understudied, researched, funded. Like
definitely
so underfunded.
It's like, I mean, I'm really, really bad with my hormones, PMDD.
Yeah.
You get no support. All you do is get tablets. So they'll give you tablets, sertraline.
Yeah.
I mean, I came off them.
Yeah.
For me, how I need to learn from you. I'll be messaging you off this podcast, but so I really struggle hormonally, and it affects my
Your
mood.
life.
Yeah, everything. Absolutely everything. It affects everything.
So the two most common things, so as a woman, it doesn't matter what you go to the doctor with, the two most common things that are given to you are an antidepressant or the combined pill.
Yeah.
And there are so many other things that you can do, that you can implement, that you can try. And this is basically what my job is. So I'm the other side of that, getting rid of probably often things that women don't actually need, and there are other ways, like there are other angles to come at your hormonal health from. There's so many other ways. But I think there's a study that's been done about women that are on the combined pill, then obviously they come off the combined pill, make different life decisions, including the partners that they choose.
Really?
So like there's this just like statistical evidence to say you change your decision making, you change in your preferences. Like that's a huge life choice, picking your partner, father of your children, who you get married to. Completely different choice if you're not on.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. So there's other ways of doing things.
I mean, I know from experience, hormones rule your life. So obviously, and I know obviously your contraceptive and things that you put in your body to try and control that obviously affects those hormones. I think there'll be a lot of people out there
just different choices.
Struggle,
different choices. But so I'm not like you must do this way, because then otherwise that's just kind of what I'm trying to sort of counteract. But I like to empower women with knowledge and choice. So if somebody comes to me and says, I just really don't want to come off the pill, or I really don't want to come off an antidepressant, that's absolutely fine. We'll work with it. But I'm here to give you all the other information so you can make an informed decision for yourself.
Yeah, and I bet once they've got that information, they naturally make that choice.
It's very rare somebody will stay with the choice that they've made. So
I mean, like, how, like, for people who just for this podcast, I mean, just obviously a short brief, have you got any tips for people who are like letting like hormones basically rule their life? Is there any little things that you could just obviously mention today?
Yeah, 100%. So like we'll use like PMDD as an example, PMS, PMDD, which is more common than what I think we realise.
Yeah.
So obviously as women, you might feel like you're a different person every single week of the month. So your week 1, 2, 3, 4, you feel like you're almost like a different personality. Then obviously you're questioning, have I got a personality? Like I've had people come to me and say, I'm not sure if I'm bipolar or if I've got a personality disorder.
That's what
and it's really common. It's really common to feel
then you
like
beat yourself
that.
up about it.
But we're women, and we're not supposed to be. We're not designed to be linear. It's just unfortunate that we're in a world that is designed for male physiology, like 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, January through to December. Suits a male physiology. It doesn't suit female physiology. We're cyclical. We ebb and we flow, and we have weeks where we've got more energy. We have weeks where we've got less energy. So I think and how simple is this? First of all, it's just understanding what your cycles are and the weeks where you do have a bit more energy and maybe being a bit more active on that week. Weeks where you know you're going to have no energy, that's okay. It's just part of being...
Yeah, it's acceptance as well.
It's acceptance.
I mean, awareness.
Awareness and
so
acceptance.
Obviously I've tried to look into this because obviously I do really struggle. Like there's only like 2 weeks a month where I feel normal. I'm not gonna lie. So I've been trying to like obviously go on internet and but there's so much information. It's so hard to sort of So it's obviously people like you that are really gonna help people.
And a lot
out there.
of the time, it's not complicated stuff. Like it's almost that basic that it's like But when I actually speak to people and say, have you actually done this though? Things like water, hydration, huge in female health, which without going down the rabbit hole of explaining why, but keeping yourself hydrated. Super simple. Making sure you're getting enough sleep, prioritizing your sleep, and having a set routine where it suits you, but also understanding some weeks, like in your premenstrual phase, you might need a little bit more sleep. That's okay. Or having a nap in the middle of the day doesn't make you lazy or you're not being productive or you're being weak. It's just you're actually just honoring where your body is in that
I think
week.
that's something really these last probably 6 months I've had to become aware of, and I didn't even realise I used to beat myself up like, why am I tired, or why am I moody, or why am I unmotivated? And then I think with that, when you don't understand it, you've got no awareness, you start beating yourself up.
You internalise
and then come
it.
And then come the other problems, internally, what you're making up really in your own head because of these hormones that you're not understanding and you're not aware of. So
and actually you're just being a woman. Just being female. But we are then, if we look at like narratives and words that we use, she's a psycho. She's a crazy bitch or whatever. No, she's just female. Like she's just a woman being a woman. But things like water, sleep, making sure there's enough fat in your diet. This is like a huge one. So women are so scared of having fat in the diet. Because we always think protein, especially now with the fitness industry, you need all your protein, blah, blah, blah. Don't cut out your carbs, which obviously absolutely accurate for both of them. But what about your fat? And actually as a woman, your fat intake, your good fat intake is probably the one. When I work with my clients, that's what I put in first. The fat goes in first. And most coaches, it's the last thing they put in. But your hormones are literally made out of cholesterol. So if your body fat's too low or you're not getting enough good fat in, your hormones are literally made from fat. So they're not being supported or they don't have the right building blocks. Or
I never ever knew that. So I'm learning something.
Yeah, and it's not complicated, is it? It's just knowledge. It's just a lot of what I do isn't overly complicated. Like we massively overcomplicate things, and actually it's quite simple. So I'll explain hormones to you and let's see if I can do it in 60 seconds. How to make your hormones balanced. You've got your stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol. They're your yang, they're your masculine, they're the fire. You've got your sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone. They're your feminine hormones, your yin, they're the water. All we need to do is just create balance between those two. Because these ones, the yang ones, actually steal these ones and convert them into more fire. So we just need to nourish the yin hormones, so your estrogen and your progesterone. The best way to do that is rest. Do nothing. Like how many women are burnt out, stressed, doing too much, pressure on them. We've got the narrative of we can do it all, and we absolutely can, but at the expense of what? So, which this is like, sometimes people think this is almost disempowering, and it's not. This is, to me, the actual empowerment. We're expected to be perfect housewife, perfect mum, career woman now, because we have to do that
Yep.
because we had everybody fought for our rights, so we have to
Yep.
also do that. We also have to match like the level of intensity in careers and that sort of thing. You also have to look perfect because everybody looks perfect now.
Yeah.
Your house needs to look like a show home because everybody's house looks like a show home.
Yeah.
You need to be a great friend. You need to be this, and it's the expectation of what we're supposed to be is up here.
Yeah.
And it's just all that fire and masculine energy, all that yang is just consuming all the feminine that's down here. And actually, to nourish your female hormones is through, when I say self-care, I mean proper self-care, like deeply nourishing self-care. And a lot of the time that is simple things like eating enough, resting enough, drinking enough, doing nourishing things that make you feel
happy and good and fulfilled.
Joy for joy's sake, without an agenda, without, well, it's for this goal, or even like the gym. And this is obviously coming from me as an ex-fitness athlete. It is a stress on your body because especially if you're training
See,
obviously
for
hard.
me, I literally, gym is my go-to.
And I get,
place.
because we've talked about this before, haven't we? It's this bit.
Mental, but then
So
you forget about the other bit.
So it's like a little delicate dance of like the times where you are feeling absolutely battered or your hormones are really struggling. It's just looking at your life and thinking, I'm not saying take the gym out completely, but where can I factor in more downtime, more rest more stillness? So you literally, I tell my clients to call it goddess mode. How can I step into goddess mode?
Yeah,
and
I love that.
It might be just lying on the floor and doing nothing for an hour. Like, that's a really alien concept to most women.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean, do nothing? I'm like, literally nothing.
Nothing, yeah.
Yeah, so that's how, one of the simplest ways to create hormonal balance. But yeah, hydration, sleep, enough good fat in your diet, more rest. And then there's all sorts of supplements and extra herbs and things that we can use as well. So there's some really common ones like Agnus castus is a great one for most people. Shatavari root is an incredible one for most people. Getting a good omega-3, 6 and 9 in your supplement profile as well.
So a lot of people have been recommending on social media, as they do, these experts, primrose oil.
Yeah, primrose oil. Yeah,
I do have the Angus cactus. I've got some of that. But people have been saying primrose oil.
Yeah, evening primrose oil. That's one I would probably recommend for my clients as well. So
that's good then. Yeah. So I've been having that as well. Yeah, I think.
And then just looking at cutting out. So I call it. It's easier to remember if you just call it crap. So when I say crap, I mean caffeine, refined sugar, alcohol, processed food.
Yeah.
Getting as much out of that out as you possibly can.
Yeah.
And then
I've noticed that. Do you know, like this last year?
Yeah.
Obviously, this last year where I cut out the sugar, the alcohol, all those things.
Yeah.
My hormones were at a really great level.
Amazing.
And then obviously when I a few weeks ago decided, I've done my year now, I'll have the drink. That's when my hormones have literally gone through the roof. Yeah. And then from that, I've craved sugar, so I've ate sugar. My whole
it knocks on, doesn't it? Yeah.
It knocked my whole hormonal balance out of place completely.
Yeah.
So everything you're saying, majority of the things I already do and I've done for a year, but before that I struggled in life. I just struggled in life every single day.
Yeah.
Obviously since I've made those changes with the hydration, with the diet, obviously with my Angus cactus and it's been life changing.
Yeah, because even things like caffeine, alcohol depletes like the zinc, the magnesium in your body, and that then implicates your hormones. Everything has a knock-on effect. Then you're eating worse food. Then you're not sleeping as well.
That's exactly
it just all like spreads, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So then you're back over here with all the fire again, and then you've got to go back to the water.
I don't think people realise that obviously
basics
your alcohol,
and simple
your caffeine, the food that you eat.
Yeah.
Everybody focuses on cutting those things out for a physical result. They never focus on cutting. I mean, I'm guilty of it.
Yeah.
Personally, I've done it myself up until this last year.
Yeah.
So you get so focused on, I've got to cut these out because I want to look a certain way, when that's totally the opposite to what you should do. Whereas if you cut those out because you want to feel a certain way, the physical changes come naturally.
Absolutely.
That's what I found this year. I've just focused on how I was feeling and what I was putting into my body, but not because I wanted to look a certain way, but
how you want to feel.
I wanted to feel, but then over the year, my body started to look a certain way. When I was obsessing about what I was eating because of how my body looked, I was sort of in this binge restrict cycle. So I've had my weight loss business for 12 years and obviously helped people lose weight, but I was literally probably uneducated as well, even though I've always helped people from my own experience, and I've helped thousands of people lose weight. But however, this last year I've learned so much about what I need to change with regards to how I'm helping people, just from my own experience again.
But I think that's a great thing, like, because you've experienced it. And like I was saying earlier, I think when you've got the lived experience, you can work with people on a much deeper level because you understand the thoughts that go with things, you understand the feelings that go with things, the challenges. Like, I think I don't think that's necessarily a negative. I think that's a good thing because you've got the experience.
Yeah, I do think it is, but I'm so glad that I've obviously learned more in this last year. What
I always think is really ironic as well is when so if we just went off the aesthetic, so like I have literally been given trophies because my body has been the best on stage, or that's why I've been in a magazine or whatever. I felt like absolute hell. I felt horrendous. My mood was horrendous. Yeah. Like my connection to my body image, like all of that was horrendous. But then when I've completely transformed in the sort of journey that I've gone on, and like what we're saying, I've gone off the feeling and the self-nourishment and actually how am I actually taking care of my body? I am doing air quotes, but I look worse now. Obviously, I still know I'm fine.
Yeah.
I look worse.
Yeah.
But I actually don't care. So I think you become, even if you look worse, talking about acceptance again, you just embrace yourself more.
Yeah,
like I actually don't care anymore. Like that's completely gone. And how freeing and liberating is that? Because I know I'm nourished from the inside out.
Yeah, so many
and what I'm doing is actual self-care. This is real self-care. And I look worse, but I feel it's free.
It's crazy, isn't it? How, like, I mean, I've got daughters, and this day and age, how people are so caught up on the physical.
Yeah.
On how they look. I mean, social media don't help with people editing the photos and making themselves look a way that's just not realistic. And actually, they don't even look like that. I mean, that's another conversation. But like, it's something I'm going to really focus on is like which obviously you do like different to me, but I'm just saying I'm going to focus on. I want people. This is what I've been trying to help people with recently is feeling good from the inside.
Yeah.
Feeling good from the inside. Don't worry about what your outside looks like. It's what you feel like, because you could have I know people who've got look absolutely mint to me. I think, oh wow, you look amazing.
Yeah.
They're miserable.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They're absolutely they're so miserable. And I think we focus so much on what we look like in a mirror or what people think we look like, their perception of how we look, or, you know, the stereotype of how we need to look, what weight we need to be. And whereas that's not important at all.
No, and I think things like confidence and feeling empowered in yourself come from actions where you know you are taking care of yourself. Like when you know you are stepping up for yourself in the right ways, confidence and self-assurance for me comes from that. But I'm surrounded by almost like two extremes of person at the moment, and like working with some people that are so obsessive with, they've got to get the 10,000 steps in, they've got to hit the protein macros and blah, blah, blah. So I took them all on like a nature walk, and they were that bothered about whether they were going to get the steps in or was it going to be active enough, or they completely missed the point of being mindful, being present on the walk, actually absorbing the scenery that we had around us, like being connected to nature, the tranquility, the peace, and all the benefits of actually having 90 minutes, just that's all it was, 90 minutes to be completely off grid, where you're just enjoying nature for nature's sake and being immersed in the fresh air and listening to everything you got around you. Like, it was such a beautiful practice, but they were that focused on I'm going to call them ego metrics, that they just missed it completely. Whereas I had another group who were so immersed in what we were doing and just didn't even give that a second's thought. And the difference in their relationships to themselves, their rates of happiness or joy, or what the energy of the groups felt like was so completely different. I just thought, it's crazy. We're just so focused on and really,
it's so hard. I mean, I've been there. It is so hard.
And me too.
It's so hard,
absolutely.
Like we just live in that world, and sometimes people feel like they can't.
It's you can feel trapped by it.
Trapped,
and I've
definitely
absolutely been there, probably to like a different sort of level, because once it was my second competition, I was a national champion. So I literally went from nothing to straight at the top in the country, and I had to sustain that then. So it was probably even worse, because it was like, I have to hold on to this, because the only way to go from here is down.
And no one wants to go down.
And nobody wants to go down. So it was the obsession that I had, and it was all about what I looked like and the aesthetic, and that was my worth and my value in the world. Like, obviously, when you're competing, that you are literally measured on what you look like. And I got to a point where I'd almost like forgotten that I'm actually really intelligent. I've got a really good heart. I'm pretty funny when I want to be. Like, I've got all these other things, qualities to offer, and I got so sucked into it. But that was why I got to that point where I was like, I need a drastic pattern disrupt here. Something's got to change. But I think a lot of people don't get to that, or when they do get to that point, they're not sure sort of what to do. But which is why what me and you do, I think, is so powerful, because we have been through that journey and we have both got to those points where we're like, something's really got to change here. And then I think we have to lead from the front, but the only way to do that is if you've actually been on the journey that you're trying to take other people through.
I'm really strong on that. I just think as well, like, with a lot of people, with obviously going back to the trap thing, they feel like they're trapped in that mindset, in that feeling, in that, you know, having self-worth. Don't get me wrong, I've had moments like that. Even in this last year where I've sort of they call it imposter syndrome, where I'm telling myself all this negative talk, and people really don't know how to get out of that. Like, it's a struggle for a lot of people. And then what a lot of people do is, because they can't get out of it, they do feel trapped, and they seem to make bad decisions, so they'll drink and mask that feeling rather than actually sit down. I mean, I've had to do it. I mean, you'll have had to do it. I had to do a lot of inner work on myself, and find out the whys, and, you know, why I was making these decisions, why I was looking at myself in a negative way, and unpicking it. And I think to tell someone, I try to do it all the time on social media, and I obviously do it in private on my one-to-ones, but mindset and how you look after yourself, like mental health, and how you treat yourself, your self-care, like you were saying, is so important. Everything else, I think, then falls into place with it. If you have that time to sort of reflect and look within, everything else seems to sort of flourish around you. But what people do is they focus more on what's happening around them and think they can change that. Whereas if you change more of you,
internal environment,
your internal environment, change your external environment.
Absolutely. And that's literally what I teach. But I think when you've got somebody such as yourself who is open about these conversations and just normalizing, like, every single person feels imposter syndrome. We all feel it. And actually, it's just normalizing it and being like, it's okay. Like, it's okay if you feel like that. It's pretty normal. But having somebody like yourself, where you are always in front of people and influencing them and inspiring them, and just being really open and saying, like, I've had so much therapy and counselling because I committed to my internal environment. It's something within me that needs to change the perception I have of the world. Like I said this to you upstairs, it's like looking at the world in a specific pair of glasses, and sometimes you just need to put a different pair of glasses on. But the only way you can do that is by going internally, which of course is what, like, yoga, meditation is all about. And I think just being open in saying that that's okay. Like, we've still got such a stigma. It's getting better now, but we've still got such a stigma about mental health and talking about our emotions, talking about our feelings. Like, it's actually easier for us as women than I think what it is for men.
Yeah, definitely.
But just having open conversations and being real and vulnerable and telling your story, and like, for me, saying I've had so many different versions of therapy. Like, I had something called EMDR therapy, which is where you change your eye movements whilst your obviously therapist or your counsellor is speaking to you, and it's almost like reprogramming your brain to deal with, like, trauma or just anything that's unresolved. And, like, for me, when I look back at competing now, it all came from the wrong intentions. It wasn't coming from a healthy, rooted place within me. So of course I had a shit experience doing it, because it wasn't coming from the right messages within me. It was almost like that was my projection of what I was not dealing with. I didn't have control. I felt like I was out of control. I didn't have control. I felt like I needed to prove my worth and all these different things. Whereas now I've done that inner work and I've worked on it, and none of us are perfect, and it's a lifelong journey.
It is.
And again, I think taking the expectation of once you've been to therapy or you've had counselling, like, that solved all your problems for the rest of your life. It's an ongoing management process.
It really is.
And different levels have different devils. So you get to one stage and you think you've cracked everything, and then you're in, like, your ascension and you level up and you're in a new phase of your life, and then something else comes along.
I can relate to that. That is exactly what I've done for that year.
And that's okay. And like every stage is going to have new challenges.
And as you go through the stages, I think obviously with me, I could have easily gone off at rails this time, but because I've done that process and gone through the stages, I'm more self-aware. So I can take a step back and think, well, like this, I need to change this. And I think it's just getting to that level for some people. I mean, have you got any tips of how people can get a little bit more self-aware and sort of get that, I don't like using that word motivation, but the sort of, or is it strength or inner
liberation, empowerment?
Yeah,
freedom.
empowerment. Yeah, to actually stop looking at the external.
Yeah, and sit with
things and sit with yourself. Like,
I think really basic stuff. So super simple stuff that has helped me, or what obviously I recommend to my clients is sitting and doing things like journaling, but journaling properly. So rather than, well, I don't know. Sometimes I like to just have a blank piece of paper, and if my brain feels really chaotic, just sit and write it down, because you can't write at the speed that you think. So as soon as you start writing, it's going to slow your thought process down anyway, because you're having to write it down. You can't think as fast as sort of like your hands going. But I like really structured journals as well. So I've got an amazing one that every day is the same, but I have like almost like the same questions, the same things to consider and to think about, and it just helps me in the morning to sort of like
digest what you need to think about,
or just it keeps me grounded. So I have a morning routine. I'll super quickly explain it to you. So I have elements of the earth. So my feet hit the floor. That's the first thing I do in the morning, and I just wait and I just let myself actually feel my feet on the floor. I connect to where the sunlight is. I open the window. I breathe. Literally take like big deep breaths in with fresh air, and then I'll do a meditation and I'll do some breath work. Usually I combine the two together. So I have my earth elements, I have my air elements. So obviously breath work, heart affirmations, air is the element of the heart chakra. Then I have like my water elements. So it'll be gargling with some water. Getting in a cold bath, which works for me sometimes, not all the time. Having a really nice shower and just having like a really indulgent shower in the morning. And then I have my fire elements in there. So like a ginger tea to get my digestion going. Like I said, connecting to the sun. I literally light a candle for myself and like say myself a little affirmation. Like that's I call it my
love that.
I call it my goddess power hour.
That's my new power hour.
I call it and I get it done in an hour, and it's literally, I'll send it to you. So it's like earth, air, fire, and water, and get all 4 elements in. And I think that like, it's like self-devotion, isn't it? My first hour of the day is all about me and grounding my energy and like, again, call it goddess mode. But it gives me an hour to like step into goddess mode, and then for the rest of the day, I feel
empowered.
Amazing. Yeah. So I think things like that, and then actively seeking out a therapist or somebody that you trust and have a good relationship with to guide you through that journey with the right questions. And I always think therapists and counselors are like boyfriends and partners. Sometimes you have to try a few until you find the right one.
Yeah, I think you've got to have a connection.
And I think what some people do is they'll find a counsellor or a therapist and they think, well, this is not for me. And it might just be that the dynamic of that relationship's not right. Like I think I had 5 until I found, so mine is called Jane, who does my EMDR therapy for me. And I had about 5 until I found her. And then as soon as we started working together, I was like, she is my one.
Yeah.
And so I think
I had about 3.
Yeah. So being open-minded to trying different therapists and until you feel like you've got someone with a connection. So I think something like that. But then super simple stuff, again, listening to podcasts, literally the conversation that me and you are having, it's exposure to, oh, wait a minute, I'm not a complete alien. There's other people that feel like this as well.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And then especially podcasts that get you to self-reflect and get you to think, is this relative to me, or how do I feel about this, or what are my thoughts on this, or so that as well. Reading, I've got a billion different books, a million books. I love to read. I think it's I
love reading, but sometimes I don't get time, so I'll try and commit to a couple of pages every day now. That's what
perfect.
It's like a self-care thing, and sometimes I'll do it and sometimes I'll not, but it's again we're still like the world overtakes us sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah,
so
and it's conscious. It's having to
consciously,
put it
consistently.
Yeah. But even if it's a couple of pages, it's a couple. By the end of the year, you've done more than if you'd not.
If you're not, that's what I think as well.
So in yoga, it's called Svadhyaya. So Svadhyaya is the concept of self-study. So it's always been just like a sense of curiosity around yourself and just looking at yourself and studying yourself. And I think looking at what you expose yourself to on a daily basis as well. Like people that you're around, if you're not around people that are growing, then
you're not going to grow.
You're not going to grow.
You'll become your environment.
You become absolutely like if you if you've got a plant that wasn't doing so good, you don't change the plant, you change the environment. You water it, you nourish it, you put it in the sunshine, you change the environment, not the plant itself. If that makes sense. So it's the same with people. Look at who you've got around you. Are they helping you to grow? Even if you're growing in completely different directions, that's okay. But also what you're exposing yourself to on TV. Like, I don't have a TV, so I don't watch it.
I don't really watch it. I don't have time, but...
I got rid of mine in lockdown, and then when I am around a TV now, it like blows my mind at how negative. Like, wow. So things like that.
TV, social media.
And then social media is a huge one. Literally culling your account and anything that doesn't positively contribute.
Yeah, that's what I did last year.
To your mood, how you feel about yourself, whether it's reinforcing limiting beliefs that you have about yourself. Literally culling your account and just get rid of it. Like, we have huge FOMO, don't we? Massive fear of missing out. We're not missing anything.
Definitely not. And most of people, what I think, people obsess with each other's lives on there, but then what they don't realise is that life's just what they're showing on Facebook. Most of it's, they only show the good bits. People only show the good bits on Facebook, and then people who are having a hard time just think they only focus on that, not realising, no, then people are really unhappy. I know people who are so unhappy, the Facebook makes them look like the happiest people in the whole world. But then for someone who's sat there feeling really crap about themselves and you know, focusing on negative things, and they see that, and it just makes people feel a whole lot worse.
Definitely. But then I think that's why, like, people like you and me that are honest and tells real stories. Like, I'm an open book, and I share so much. I
share too much me sometimes.
But that makes you relatable. It makes people trust you, because it's like we get to witness your high points and the amazing parts and the highlights. But we also get to see that you're a real person. And I think that provides a lot of comfort in people, because it makes people feel, again, like they're not so much of an alien. And like the problems that we have, none of us are unique. That's not to reduce the severity of what we all experience, but none of us are unique. We've not got unique problems. Like, there's people that are experiencing the same thing global wide, daily. And it's actually just realizing that there's probably not anything fundamentally wrong with us. We're just looking at it through a specific lens.
Yeah, your glasses again, different glasses.
Different glasses again.
When you start looking at it, same as with problems in your life. If you just focus on that problem, and you make the problem bigger. Whereas if you take your glasses off and look around the problem and think, oh, well, I can do that to change that. But people don't. They just wholly in on the problem and see it. I've learned this. Honestly, I've learned so much myself, even just in this last year, about just focusing on negatives and problems, and they just become a whole lot worse, don't they?
Yeah.
Rather than focus on, right, well, how do I get a solution? Or how do I work through that? And I can change, I can do that. People just think that they're stuck as this person who, you know, I'm unhappy, or I'm not going to achieve this. And then you're constantly telling yourself that I've done it myself. And then you start believing it. It's
self-fulfilling prophecy then, isn't it?
Yeah, very much. And I think we live in a world like so many people are like that.
I think as well, it's realizing that your experience of reality doesn't have to be your experience of reality forever. So we live in in the life of what we've got evidence of. So whatever we're experiencing right now, we think, oh my God, this is it.
Yes.
But actually getting your mindset into a position where you can project into the future, and that can be your reality if you change your behavior today. Rather than just thinking, well, this is what I'm stuck with.
This is what so many people do that, don't they?
Yeah. And whether people believe in like manifestation or all that sort of stuff, it is just visualizing the future that you want or the changes that you want. And so what sort of differences do I need to make today in order to be able to make that my reality for tomorrow?
Yeah.
Like that as well. So, but like in yoga, it's called svadhyaya, and it is literally self-study. So finding ways that you feel like progress you further in your own study of yourself. I love meditation. Some people hate's a strong word, but some people really don't enjoy it because they feel like they can't do it. Whereas
I'm not going to lie, and I mean, there are probably people listening to this podcast, I try so much and I can never switch my brain off.
So you can't. So this is the thing about meditation. Nobody can switch their brain off.
I'm
That's okay.
So I'm there and I've tried to meditate and then everything what's going on, it just seems to infiltrate my brain. I never seem...
Okay.
Go on, because you're going to learn because I'm going to
summarize meditation in 60 seconds.
Yeah.
So meditation is literally finding something to anchor yourself with. So it might be your breath, it might be an affirmation, it might be your body, it might be listening to somebody guiding you through meditation, it might be a bracelet, or it might be just something that's like almost like you're anchoring, you're grounding. And then all meditation is just every time your mind wanders off, just acknowledge that it's wandered off and bring it back to your anchor.
Yeah.
That's literally it. So it's...
I think you overthink it, don't you? So
yeah,
that's what you do. Like, I can't meditate, or so-and-so's doing this, or
yeah.
I need to do this, and that's what...
It's expectation, isn't it? Because you're expecting to not have any thoughts, but it's literally impossible as a human brain to not have any thoughts.
Yeah.
Like, stillness, absolutely, but I can meditate for like an hour if I want to. I will have had a billion thoughts in that time. Like, we can't stop our thoughts. So it's getting away from the expectation of I should have no thoughts. It's just the process
and I bet that's what a lot of people do.
It's almost like you're watching your own brain on a projector. It's like just noticing, what's it showing now? Oh, okay, cool. Right, now I'm going to come back to my body and my breath. And then it'll do it again. And it's just that the process of meditation is that shift of recognizing your thoughts, coming back to your body, coming back to your breath.
And that doing is meditation, isn't it?
And obviously, the more that you do that, the easier it becomes. But it's not about completely switching your thoughts off.
I think that the probably people listening to this podcast thinking the exact same as me. Like, oh,
absolutely.
I've tried it, I can't do it. I was still thinking.
And then people write it off.
Yes.
Like, think, I can't do it.
I'm that person.
It's not for me, I can't do it. When actually...
But I know the benefits. I literally know the benefits if it's something that I was like, oh yeah, I really want to do this. And then I'm like, I was
the worst. Like, when I first started meditating, so when I lived on my ashram in Croatia, we had to meditate for an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening. Now, I'd just come off the back of competing, so I was really muscular. So sitting cross-legged on the floor was so uncomfortable, it was ridiculous. I got no mobility in my body whatsoever. And I'd been through a lot of trauma. I was going through a really stressful time. So my brain was like, you know, Christmas lights when they're really, like, it was like that, just like relentless. And it was painful to sit on the floor. And I don't mean physically, I mean mentally, emotionally, for me to sit in that silence and with my own thoughts and with my own experiences and with my own trauma and all these things that I'd just been avoiding with achievement, I'd been avoiding with like success and work, and because that was my distraction.
That's the same.
All these things I'd sort of covered up with trophies and shiny bikinis and degrees and whatever I'd sort of covered it up with, I had to sit with it. And it was distressing. Like, it was really uncomfortable for me, to the point that I actually went to the person leading us and said, I can't do this, I need to go home. Like, and this was me, and this is my job and my life now. But I was all ready for getting on a flight and coming home, because I thought, I can't do this. And I went through almost like a massive drop. And it was almost like I was having to de-shell myself. So I was really raw and really, really vulnerable. But once I'd done that and I'd sort of got past it, it was that more than anything else that changed my life. Yeah. It was almost like my brain was going through a purge of all these different things that I'd not sat and felt my way through. Because like, obviously emotion, it has to be felt to be released. So I was feeling all these really intense emotions, and it wasn't until I'd sort of let myself actually sit with them, as uncomfortable as they were, that then when I sort of got to the other side, I was like, oh, this is what this feels like. And now I can't imagine my day without it. And I'll be on a train somewhere, or I'll just be sat in a line at the bank or at the supermarket, and I'll have like, right, 2 minutes, I'm going to meditate. And just keep doing it like that.
Yeah.
And it's like,
so just start slow. Like, I think people think, oh, you've got to sit there with your legs crossed, with your arms like this, and no, and it's like a false perception of it, isn't it? It's like, and that's what you think. Yeah. But really, it's just, I suppose, being at one with yourself in your own mind.
Just being present. And especially if you're doing like mindfulness, and like, it's just being present in that moment. So it might even be something as simple as, even if you sat like we are in a chair, or if you laid down in bed, right, what can I hear in this moment? And just tuning into your ability to hear. What can you hear? What can I smell in this moment? What different scents have I got in the room? Or what can I smell? Like, sometimes you can smell your hair or your perfume. What can I feel on my skin? So where can I feel my clothes on my skin? How does different textures feel? Where's the connection? What can I taste in my mouth? And it's just like sensory connection. What can I see? And that's a really simple meditation.
I feel like I've
2 minutes to
subconsciously been doing that every night to get to sleep, and not even realising and putting a label on it as meditation, because I've been struggling to get to sleep. So I'm on my phone till late, obviously working and stuff. So this last week, when I've had a really difficult time, I have literally spent the time laid in bed and doing exactly what you've just said. Yeah, and I fell asleep.
Amazing.
So I've been doing it without even realising I'm calling it meditating.
You just told me you can't meditate.
I know.
Yeah, and you can.
I think it's the word, innit? And I think it's the word meditation.
Perception.
Like, you say that perception. You say that to people, and they're like, you know what I mean? You just imagine someone sat there like this, and I think, it's like, I've been doing it anyway, and it's been helping me get to sleep, so I can actually
I think
say
it's
that.
just changing the narrative around it and just articulating that meditation's actually accessible to everybody, and like you're doing it already. That's a form of meditation.
Yeah.
Or if you just sit and just check in with your body, like how does my body actually feel today? That's embodiment. So that's just shifting away from your thinking mind and down into your feeling body. That's the sort of practice of embodiment, and you're probably doing that all the time anyway. So I think it's just articulating it in a different way and making it accessible, because you can meditate in 1,000 ways, so many ways. Like dance is a form of meditation to me. Yoga is a form of meditation to me, like, because I'm just present. I'm just there and I'm present
in the moment.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people just sort of like bypass it as though it's someone who's really just into spirituality, but it's not. You know, it's not just for those people, if that makes sense. I think it's sort of like things like that, because I mean I've felt like that before, like it's not for me, like I'm not really into that sort of thing, but I've naturally been doing it without obviously thinking it is that, and it has helped me so much.
And I think it just, even looking at things like our phones are both a blessing and a curse, because obviously, especially for people like me and you, I wouldn't have my business without it. So there's so many gifts and positives to it. But that blue light stimulating your brain all the time is absolutely not helping.
Definitely not,
I think of, like, for people that are working on the phones late, and this is sort of going back to what we were saying earlier about balancing your hormones, shifting the light on your phone, either get some blue light blocking glasses or have it constantly on. You can shift the mode on it instead of having blue light. Like, blue light on female physiology is bad news.
Is it really?
Yeah, so it stimulates your pineal gland, which is basically your third eye. In yoga, it's your third eye, but in human biology, it's your pineal gland. And how the light impacts your third eye, this is sort of what switches on and off your ovaries and different hormones in your body. So, like, girls now, the average age for girls to start their periods now is like something like 9 or 10. It's really young. If we look at our grandmothers, it was like 19, 20. Wow. So in that really short period of time, the average age of a girl starting a menstruation cycle is a lot younger, and it's one of the reasons, not completely, but one of, is because of the amount of light stimulation that we have, and it's just speeding speeding bodies up. So especially balancing your hormones, limit your blue light as much as you possibly can.
I have been trying. I've also been like trying to create a earlier sleep pattern, because before I would be on my phone till like 12, 1 o'clock. Then I can't get to sleep. So I've been coming off my phone at 10, which is really good for me. That's like, honestly, 10 o'clock I'll come off my phone. Then I'll do a bit of reading of, like, I've got a Bible app, so I'll go on that. Then I've just been doing meditation for I have been having the best sleeps ever.
Amazing.
And I've been getting up at like 6:30 for gym.
Amazing.
Whereas before I was that engrossed in my phone, and it weren't a social media thing. It would actually work. Yeah. Obviously I support people on my app, on my phone.
Yeah.
So it were like just late nights and stuff, and the improvement in everything, my anxiety, everything.
Amazing.
It's just small changes, what people don't understand, that
and simple changes,
not
complicated,
that make major differences. And I think that's like something that I'm really pushing now, obviously on my social medias and my app now. Just simple changes, they cost nothing, but they change your life. Yeah. And I think people don't even realize that. People think
it's so simple, isn't it? And then, like, going back to what we were saying earlier, then we think we've got there's like something wrong with us, or we're stuck, or we don't know what to do, and then we get medication thrown at us that actually there's other things we can try, like all these things that all natural about, all natural
changes,
and just simple.
Just changes to your routine, changes to like everything we've discussed on this podcast. And I think people just get so, like, I don't know, it's so
stuck.
It gets me so like, you just need to do this, and you get like that with people, and you're like, if you just made this like one really small change,
like simple.
And you're like, I just want to tell, like, just help so many people, and tell so many people, because it's just simple things, and then your life's. I mean, I do tell everybody, but it's just so many people just take a bit of pushing to sort of take it on board and stuff like that. But eventually, I've been that person.
Yeah,
I have been that person.
Me too,
and then you finally do it, you're like, wow, I want to tell everyone. I need to help everybody.
Yeah. Or why didn't I do this sooner?
Yeah, that I do that now. I'm 40, and I think, why didn't I make these changes when I was like in my 20s?
Because usually as well, like, as women, we're so discouraged from listening to ourselves. Like, this is a topic in its own. This is its own podcast, but intuitively, we know the like. I say this to my girls all the time. You trust your intuition, because you know.
Yeah,
you know.
You don't ignore it.
You don't actually need me to tell you.
Yeah.
Trust your intuition, because you do know. But we're so encouraged not to listen to our bodies, not to listen to our own opinions or our own beliefs, or like, again, perfect day for International Women's Day.
Yeah.
But we're in every capacity, we are very much encouraged to not trust a woman's intuition, and most of the time it's right.
Yeah.
It's right. So just keep coming back to yourself. Like, if one of the questions I'll ask one of my girls is, if they come to me and they say, I'm struggling with this, I'm struggling with that, I'm like, right, what changes do you think you can make? And they're almost looking at me like, I've come to you. You tell me. And I'm like, I'm not going to tell you first. Like, I want you to tell me, what changes do you consciously know that you can make? And usually they'll come up with 5, minimum of, well, I could be doing this, or could stop doing this. And I'm like, so you do know.
Oh, yeah.
And it's actually quite empowering, I think, when you sit there and you go, I do know. Like, I am in control here. I've got all the resources I already need to be healthy, happy, and free. And all I need to do is actually just listen to myself. Like, I think that's huge for women as well.
Definitely.
And it's just simple stuff. It's not.
Some people are just like, need people, like, obviously
support and accountability, and
definitely. Like, even me, I still reach on that now, even though we still like, we sit here today and we can offer like our advice and our tips and, you know, our experiences and stuff, but still we're those women that still need that help and support in some areas of life. In some stages, things aren't like, people with me, people obviously before I've been really struggled this last year. People like had this perception of my life were perfect and I was so happy, but even though I'd always said about me being up and down, and people never listen to downs. They never listen to the downs as much as they do a bit more now. People just think, oh, you're a leader. Sort of, you're successful. They don't realize that we can struggle as well, do they? And it's like, that's why I try and just say everything, just tell everybody everything, so they can say, like some, and I know this is not like egotistical, I don't think, but like they'll look at me and think, oh well, she's done that and look how she's come out, or like she struggled with that, I can get through it. So that's why I like to share being real so much, so people sat at home or listen to this podcast can think, oh yeah, I am normal, and I can make changes, and that's why it was so important for me to do this podcast and have people like you on the podcast to have a totally different, I mean, we're similar, but we're different. So we have different, obviously, perceptions, different thoughts, different feelings. So it's nice to have different people on who can sort of give their experiences and their help. And this is what I want it to be all about.
It hasn't been easy.
No.
Like, it's been full of challenge, but you usually find the people that have the most adversity are the ones that tend to go sometimes a little bit further, because you know how to deal with challenge.
Definitely.
You've had to. Like, we've had to deal with challenge and we've had to overcome it. What was the option? Either let it consume you and that's it, or figure out a solution and a way to move forward. And we can only take people as far as we've gone ourselves. And I think that's why, again, like, being open about having a therapist, or like, I have coaches. I have a group of 4 absolutely incredible human beings who nurture me and who help me to go further than where I'm sort of be able to go myself. And I think it's articulating that as well, and being open with, I can take you as far as I can. But there might be a day, like with some of my girls, might get to a point, it's never happened yet, but maybe one day they'll get to a point where I'm like, I need to pass you to somebody else now, because you've gone beyond sort of where I am in my journey. We've not got there yet, but we'll see. But I think, like you say, just doing podcasts like this and just, it's all of it, isn't it? And celebrating the positives and actually being okay with celebrating and like the achievements that you've had and the success that you've had, and sitting with that success and being like, I did that.
Yeah.
And being really proud of that. Like, that's okay as well. Because I think as women, we downplay.
Yeah.
You can't celebrate what you, because then you love yourself too much.
Yeah. Oh,
great.
Yeah.
Fabulous. I hope that you love yourself too.
Yeah.
But I think it's actually having the opportunity to celebrate the good stuff and putting that across and being like, it's okay to say, yeah, I am really, really good at this, or I'm really proud of this, but also being real about the parts. So this has been really hard, but this is how I've tried to come around
so it's been really hard, but this is where I am now and I'm proud of that. But there has been, that's what I've...
And normalising it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been an amazing podcast. We definitely need to do another, because I think we've got so much to cover. But yeah, thank you for coming.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And just
see you soon.
Keep being you. Just keep being you.
You too. And then keep inspiring me. And I'm going to make some changes that from my own podcast. How crazy is that? My own podcast. I'm going to listen to it back, and there's some changes that you've said today that I think, wow, I can resonate with that. I need to do that too. So amazing. Brilliant.
Well, thank you for having me. I've loved it.
Yeah, me too.